Hey guys, I'm Ayedeji Alfred from the Broke Lagosian and you are welcome to my channel. As a reminder, please do not forget to like and subscribe for more exciting content. Today I'm going to be talking about how to budget when you do not earn enough income. Budgeting, as it sounds or as it is something you've heard many times. It's something that governments do. A government cannot operate without a budget, and so do big individuals or big corporations that you and I admire cannot operate without a budget. So in essence, these guys, before a year starts, sit down and say, hey, we're going to earn $100,000, $100 million, $100 billion. And what they then do is to say, how much do we expect to spend? So in essence, before a year starts, these guys and individuals have set out a plan of how they expect to generate money and how they expect to spend this money. And so it is surprising when individuals cannot stick to a budget, cannot even create a budget, not to talk of sticking to one. In fact, in the government sector, it is a crime when money is allocated for a particular project and then you spend that money on a different project. It's a big crime. So when individuals cannot create a budget or stick to a budget, it's something that can be disappointing and may be a huge financial mistake that many of us could be making. Now, what is a budget? A budget is simply an estimate of your income for a particular period of time and then your expenses for that particular period of time as well. So because it is an estimate, it means it's something you do well in advance before you get the money. Many people would say, okay, well, I would like to budget, but I don't understand how to create a budget. Or I'm not a financial nerd, I'm not a guru. The truth is, or maybe someone would say, I don't even earn a lot of money. The truth is, you do not need to earn a lot of money to create a budget. You do not need to be a financial nerd to create a budget. You just need to have a will to want to know what your incomes are and what your expenses are. And the first thing is, how do you create a budget? You create a budget by just saying, what are my income? So all my expected income. So in essence, I expect to earn a salary, the net, not the gross. So in essence, what does your employer give you, or what alert do you receive at the end of the month? So I expect to earn a salary at the end of the month. What is the value? I expect to get some money from my father, my uncle, my sibling. What is that money? So long as it's consistent, and you can plan with it. Or I expect to make a XYZ amount from my side also, my lecturing gig or my side business. I'm going to sell this and expect to get some money. So in essence, once you've identified all your income, the next step is to say, what are my expenses? Now, when you're creating your budget, you have to be very thorough with it. In essence, you may need to look maybe through your previous bank statement and say, what are the things I've spent money on? I just sit down and draw up a list. How much was my NEPA bill last month? How much did I spend on transportation? How much did I spend to fuel the generator? How much did I give out? All of these things are what you're going to list and then try to put in your budget. And then you might even find that when you review a copy of your bank statement, you find unexplained expenses there. So what did you spend those money on? So you need to bring all of those transactions in. You need to be thorough as much as possible for your budget to work. Now, I want to at this point remove one common misconception that people have about a budget, and that's the fact that a budget is something that would constrain you. A budget does not constrain you. In essence, when you create a budget, you're saying, this is where my money is going to go to. I'm going to stick with it. It's you deciding. Nobody's deciding for you where your money is going to go to, right? So it's not constraining you. Whatever you put in your budget is what is going to stick, and that is what is going to hold. So now, after drawing up your income and your expenses, then you might find out that you have a shortfall, right? So in essence, when you have a shortfall, that means your expenses is more than your income. What do you do at this point? In essence, you may not be earning enough money. So because you are able to identify this well in advance of anyone, you can decide to say, okay, I'm going to take up a side gig. I'm going to take up a side business, to ensure I meet up with my expenses for this period. So you just can decide you want to earn more in order to be able to meet up with that expenses. Or you may find out when you create that income and that expenses that you suddenly have a lot of money extra on your hand, What are you going to do with that money? Do you want to give out that money? Do you want to save it? Do you want to invest it? You can decide well in advance because you've created a budget and you have a plan. Now, when you create a budget, you need to forgive yourself when you cannot stick with it. It takes practice, it takes discipline for anyone to stick with a budget. One other thing is that you need to make room for emergencies. So emergencies can happen. So when you're creating your budget, you make an allowance for maybe the car that can go wrong, the unexpected medical bill, or some of those things that could just happen because life happens. So even in government, there's something they call contingencies. So this is an amount that has been set aside to say, okay, yes, we've created a budget, but contingencies could happen, and then they can have something that they can they can take from, so that even while not disrupting the plan for the budget. Now, one hack that I have found is to say, okay, at the beginning of the month, I want to save this amount, I want to invest this amount. So once I decide on what I want to invest on, then I can budget on the rest. This strategy can be a strategy you can use to avoid lifestyle creep. In essence, lifestyle creep is a situation where you have XYZ amount of money, and then all of a sudden your expenses then amounts to that XYZ amount of money. It's something very funny, but it happens to every one of us. So all of a sudden you found out that you were earning 20,000 naira and you could survive and you could get by. But then all of a sudden you begin to earn 50,000 naira, and then you're like, oh, all my expenses are 50,000 naira. And then it keeps happening. Even if you earn 1,000,000 naira, it's never going to be enough. So you can decide from the beginning and say, I'm going to save this amount, and whatever is left is what I'm going to budget and then allocate among all my resources. So that's it from me regarding what a budget is. Let me know whether you like this content, if it's been helpful to you. Does it help you create a budget? Will you start creating a budget now that you've heard about it and know what it is? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Cheers. Peace out.